PPF Table Calculation in Economics. What is PPF? PPF stands for Production Possibilities Frontier. It is a graph that shows all the different combinations of output of two goods that can be produced using available resources and technology. For example, suppose you have a farm that can produce apples and oranges. The PPF shows how many apples and oranges you can produce with your land, labor, and machines. The PPF captures the concepts of scarcity, choice, and trade-offs. Scarcity means that resources are limited and cannot produce everything we want. Choice means that we have to decide what to produce and what to give up. Trade-offs mean that producing more of one good requires producing less of another good. What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is what you give up when you choose one option over another. For example, if you choose to produce more apples, you have to give up some oranges. The opportunity cost of apples is the amount of oranges you could have produced instead. The slope of the PPF shows the opportunity cost of producing one good versus the other good. The slope is calculated by dividing the change in one good by the change in another good. For example, if you move from point A to point B on the PPF, you produce 10 more apples but 5 less oranges. The slope is -5/10 equals -0.5. This means that the opportunity cost of producing one more apple is 0.5 oranges. How to calculate PPF table? A PPF table is a table that shows the different combinations of output of two goods that can be produced using available resources and technology. To calculate a PPF table, you need to know the maximum amount of each good that can be produced when all resources are devoted to that good. For example, suppose your farm can produce 100 apples or 50 oranges when all resources are used for one good. Then, you need to divide the maximum amount of each good by a common number, such as 10. This will give you 10 possible combinations of output for each good. For example, if you divide 100 by 10, you get 10 possible amounts of apples, 0, 10, 20, 100. If you divide 50 by 10, you get 10 possible amounts of oranges, 0, 5, 10, 50. Next, you need to fill in the table with the possible combinations of output for each good. You can start from either end of the table and move along the diagonal. For example, if you start from the top left corner, you can fill in the first row with 0, 50, meaning 0 apples and 50 oranges. Then, you can move down one row and write one column and fill in 10, 45, meaning 10 apples and 45 oranges. You can continue this process until you reach the bottom right corner with 100, 0, meaning 100 apples and 0 oranges. Finally, you can plot the points from the table on a graph to draw the PPF curve. The curve will be a straight line if there are constant costs or a bowed-out shape if there are increasing or decreasing costs. Why is PPF important? PPF is important because it helps us understand how we can use our resources efficiently and effectively. It also helps us analyze the effects of changes in resources, technology, or preferences on the production and consumption of goods. Some of the questions that PPF can help us answer are: 1. What is the best combination of output for society given its resources and technology? 2. What is the cost of producing more of one good in terms of another good? 3. What is the benefit of improving the technology or increasing the resources for one or both goods? 4. What is the impact of trade or specialization on the production and consumption of goods? PPF is a useful tool for studying economics and making decisions. It shows us the trade-offs and choices we face when we produce and consume goods. It also shows us the opportunities and costs we have when we change our production and consumption patterns. One example of a real-life application of PPF is how a country decides how to allocate its resources between two goods, such as military and civilian goods. For example, suppose a country can produce either guns or butter with its resources and technology. The PPF shows how many guns and butter the country can produce with different combinations of resources. The country faces a trade-off between producing more guns and producing more butter. If it wants to produce more guns, it has to give up some butter. The opportunity cost of guns is the amount of butter that could have been produced instead. The slope of the PPF shows the opportunity cost of producing one more gun in terms of butter. The country also faces a choice between different points on the PPF. Each point represents a different level of production efficiency and social preference. The country has to decide which point is best for its welfare and security. For example, if the country is at peace, it may prefer to produce more butter and less guns. If the country is at war, it may prefer to produce more guns and less butter. The PPF can also help the country analyze the effects of changes in resources, technology, or trade on its production and consumption possibilities. For example, if the country discovers new oil reserves, it can increase its resources and shift the PPF outward. This means that the country can produce more of both goods with the same amount of resources. If the country develops new technology that makes butter production more efficient, it can change the shape of the PPF and lower the opportunity cost of butter. This means that the country can produce more butter with less resources. If the country engages in trade with other countries, it can consume beyond its PPF by exchanging some of its goods for other goods. This means that the country can enjoy more variety and higher living standards. Some of the important formulas related to PPF are: 1. The slope of the PPF shows the opportunity cost of producing one good versus the other good. 1. The slope is calculated by dividing the change in one good by the change in another good. 1. For example, if you move from point A to point B on the PPF, you produce 10 more apples but 5 less oranges. 1. The slope is -5/10 equals -0.5. 1. This means that the opportunity cost of producing one more apple is 0.5 oranges. Slope of PPF equals delta x by delta y. 1. The PPF table shows the different combinations of output of two goods that can be produced using available resources and technology. 1. To calculate a PPF table, you need to know the maximum amount of each good that can be produced when all resources are devoted to that good. 1. Then, you need to divide the maximum amount of each good by a common number, such as 10. 1. This will give you 10 possible combinations of output for each good. 1. Then, you need to fill in the table with the possible combinations of output for each good. 1. You can start from either end of the table and move along the diagonal. PPF table equals x1 x2 dot. x10 y1 y2 dot. y10. 1. The PPF curve shows the graphical representation of the PPF table. 1. The curve will be a straight line if there are constant costs or a bowed-out shape if there are increasing or decreasing costs. 1. To draw the PPF curve, you need to plot the points from the table on a graph and connect them with a smooth line. PPF curve equals fx, y. 1. The PPF formula shows how to calculate the amount accrued on a public provident fund account. 1. The formula is based on the concept of compound interest. 1. The formula is f equals p1 plus I, to the power n, minus 1, by I. Here, F stands for the maturity proceeds of the Public Provident Fund account, P stands for annual installments, N stands for the number of years, and I stands for the rate divided by 100.